This is the Conservative as Christ Show.
Peace and blessings, family. Welcome to the Conservative as Christ Show with LJ and the Wretch. Today is Wednesday, October 16th, 2024. It is another beautiful day our Lord has made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. What is good with your brother?
Man, highly favored, man. I had a little debate with a guy earlier about some black culture stuff. So my day started off right.
Black culture stuff. All right. What was going on in the black culture? Y'all chopping it up about?
It was, about Kamala Harris and stuff, and her plan, her new plan for the black man, that she rolled out. That's what we was talking about.
I'm not familiar with the new plan. What's her new plan?
Well, I thought I sent it to you. So $1 million for small business owners, forgivable loans up to $20,000. So that means you can get a loan for $1 million and it's forgivable up to $20,000. So, but the rest you got to pay back.
Right.
And it's, let me see, let me actually pull it up because it's something about cryptocurrency and. Hold on. Kamala Harris black man plan. That's what I'm Google. That's what it is, man. All right, so I put it up there.
That really came up. Kamala Harris black man plan. It really came up.
Dang, where is she tweeted it. You know what? I thought it was going to show me the actual tweet, but I know it's $1 million for. Hold on. See, Vice President Harris. Maybe I should just find that tweet she did.
Yeah. No, I want to hear what makes this, because what you said sounds good, but what makes it a plan for the black people? That sounds like something for everybody.
It's not. Hold on. It's specifically for black men. Here you go. I'll let you read it.
Says Vice President Harris is laying out an agenda. Hit later on that. Hit later.
Oh, okay.
Vice President Harris is laying out an agenda to give black men the tools to build wealth and achieve financial freedom, lower costs for themselves and their families, and protect their rights, addressing the issues that black men across the country have told her are their top concerns. So this is the first bullet point. Provide 1 million forgivable loans up to $20,000 to black entrepreneurs and others who have a good idea but don't have the resources, connections, or access to capital to get their businesses off the ground. Okay, so it does say it says black entrepreneurs and others. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think the remember you say the lawyers are good with the pen.
Yeah,
well, you got to say and others because
you got to add that. Yeah, you got to add that. Yeah. Okay, launch a national health equity initiative focused on black men. What does that mean? What does that mean? Legalize marijuana at the federal level to break down unjust legal barriers that hold black men and other Americans back. Legalizing. Do you have? Yeah. Okay.
You got to tell Jobs to stop testing then.
Lower costs by enacting the first ever federal ban on corporate price gouging for food and groceries. Lower rent and provide a down payment system to triple the number of new first-time black homeowners. Yeah, it all sounds good. For me, Kamala, she talked herself into the position to where, like, before she was picked before Biden stepped down, my position on Biden was, look, Biden, you've been president. There's nothing that you can promise me that's going to make me vote for you. You would have to do something and then say, hey, if you don't vote for me, then it's going to be taken away by the other party. That's the position Biden was in. When Kamala Harris became the nominee, I was like, oh, okay, she's new. She has a chance. Basically, she has a chance to lie to me. She could lie to me and tell me she's going to do something, and I give her that chance. If she don't do it, I'd be like, fool me once, shame on me. If it ain't shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. But then she came on and was like, "Yeah, everything Biden did, I did that too, and I'm gonna keep doing that, you know." And so that puts her back in the same boat. Well, you can't promise this. You gotta do something. So let's see what you're gonna do. And she only got 20 days. I don't think she's gonna do something. I don't think
It is 20 days, ain't it?
Yeah, it's about 20 days. Yeah, she. I don't think she's gonna be able to do anything.
No. We got a Wednesday caller. Taj, are you there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, family in the building. My man Taj Hollywood from Hollywood, Florida to Hollywood, California. What's good with you, man?
Brothers, I want to get straight to it, man. You know, when President Biden won 2020 November on the stage, he told our community, I can't remember if he said African Americans, Black Americans, that he was going to do something for us. And I want to ask you two, can we think of something that we could say he did for us?
No.
All right, so that's LJ, that's you saying no, right?
Yeah.
Rich?
He didn't do anything specifically for Black people. Biden did do some decent things, but he didn't do anything specifically for Black people.
He talking about, I don't know why I thought you said Obama. I don't know why I thinking of Obama.
Obama
Biden.
Obama actually did something, but I don't want to get off topic with that. I could go into it, Obama, and I know people who benefited from Obama, but let's not get off topic, because the point I want to make is with Vice President Kamala being there, you know, like if she really for us, and this is part that kind of broke my heart, and I know we shouldn't put our emotions into politics, but it's like you're right there with him, and to me, the ideal Black woman would be like, Joe, I gotta be able to go back to my community and show them something that you got on the world stage in the politics November 2020 and told not just the Black community, you told the whole world, African Americans, I got your back. Thank you for putting me in here. That's not a verbatim quote, but I'm doing a social pivot from President Biden to Kamala and holding her accountable. Like, how come? So do y'all understand where I'm going with this? Like, it's like, hey, give me something I can go back to my community and say, hey, here's what Joe did for you guys. So if you, me, and Reg is in agreement that all three of us agree that nothing was done, and here she is 20 days away, and so take it from there. Like, what's y'all thoughts on that?
Well, what she needs to do is come out and actually say, yes, I am going to do something different than Joe Biden. I'm going to actually do this plan right here for Black men and their families that Joe Biden didn't want to do, because I remember when he met with some activists and some Black leaders before the election, he told them, I'm not doing nothing specifically for Black people. And he talked about Black people not being diverse as Hispanics and everything. So that was on the Zoom call. So what she can do is come out and say, I want to re-answer the question that Sonny Holston asked me on The View and say, yes, I am going to do something different. This is the different thing right here. That's what she can do. But will she do that? I don't know.
No. Go ahead, Rhett. No, she's not. That was part of the point, Rhett.
Yeah, no. Well, this right here, she's saying that. She's saying, hey, this is what I'm gonna do for y'all. I'm gonna provide $1 million in forgivable loans up to $20,000 for Black entrepreneurs. So she is saying that. She's saying she's gonna do something.
I want to use something you just said earlier, and I use this. So when I say I'm using it as a good point that you make. That, and you said, okay, I'm gonna give Kamala a clean slap. Kamala, I'm gonna give you a chance to lie to me. What I'm saying is, and I really want y'all opinion on this part, the ideal Black women to me, and I know I just said this earlier, but like, yo, Joe, I got you. If it's almost like I'm just as guilty as you, Joe, if I sat in this White House or this vice president's residence for 4 years and didn't bother you at all to say, hey, Joe, you told you understand, like, my sister, I hope y'all sisters or female relatives would have been strong enough to say, Joe, you got to do something. You're on public record telling these people you got their back, and 4 years have went by. And so what I'm not putting the pressure on Joe. I'm asking Kamala, why did you just sit idle? Why did you just sit idle for 4 years and not press him? That's what we're supposed to do, is force our representatives to bring us back results. you guys know how I started out on this show, practically, just, and I just been exhausted over time. Like, yo, I can't keep going like this. Like, what? So back to y'all, man. Like, yeah.
I think that somebody's telling her to do this. I don't think that she actually wants to do this. The numbers are bad
right.
when it comes to black men. I don't know why they're considerably concerned with black men. I thought getting a black woman on a white woman was the main thing they wanted. But black men is 30% for Trump right now. So I guess that scared them so much that they had to send Barack Obama out there, and then they had to make this plan. And so with all policies, you ask yourself, anytime the government says they're going to give money, you always ask yourself, where is it coming from? Who's going to pay for it? And all this stuff. But I don't think that she actually wants to do this. I think somebody actually told her. And I don't think her team is good. I think there's a lot of things that's happened, that decision that's been made, things that she has said that I'm kind of like, why in the world would somebody tell her to do that and say that? So
I think it was a strategy error. Like what made me raise my eyebrow and be like, okay, Kamala might be doing something is she, in the beginning, she was doing things that looked like, okay, she really is trying to pivot away from Joe Biden. Like everybody thought she was going to pick Shapiro from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and she didn't. She picked Walz. I like that because I like Walz over Shapiro. I think I like some of the things that Walz did in Minnesota. So that made me raise my eyebrow. Like, okay, Kamala, maybe you will be doing something different. But I think she got so much of a jump in a lead that they was like, oh, okay, we got that in the bag. Now let's try to go and get some of these Republicans. And then she, and then she made a turn and started. She went way more Republican. She started rocking around with the Cheneys. Like Cheney, again, this is my personal opinion, but Cheney is a war criminal. Anybody
we're still trying to find the weapons.
Yeah, anybody will tell you Dick Cheney is a war criminal. Cozying up to him is not, you know what I'm saying? That's not making me like, oh, okay. But then all of the other policies she started rolling out. Like, this policy is better than that first one she came with the homes, but she was like, or the first time she was talking about businesses, she said she was going to give them a $50,000 tax break. You know what I'm saying?
But no. That's still on. This is on top of everything else.
Right. The reason why she had to come on top of that, because that's trash. $50, that's trash. So she's trying to come back on top. But I think she just made a lot of strategy errors. The polls wouldn't be close now if she would have stayed on that same path she was on when she first announced. But she started. She fell back.
I think the polls are saying what they're saying because she's coming out more and on interviews and not able to explain herself. And she's getting on different platforms where you got the independent voters and everything, and they're actually seeing this person not being able to answer the questions and explain why she's doing. Like, how many times do you hear her say, well, I grew up in the middle class? I mean, we know that by now. And Charlamagne got on her about saying that over and over.
Yes, he did.
So I think they should have kept her away, just like they did Biden.
Y'all didn't like her. Y'all didn't like her pivot from that. She said that's called discipline. She said that's called discipline.
I'm being vulnerable. Hey, Reg, thanks for asking that question. I'm being vulnerable, and I'll be brief. I know we got another guest coming on. She was like, "You're welcome." Her first words answering the question was, "So that's slightly." See, I'm speaking as a guy who's going through a breakup with a chick right now. That's I don't know if y'all can hear the pain in my heart or not, but that's how I'm talking.
I'm sorry to hear that, man.
Hey, LJ, you
stop. Why are you laughing at him, Mike?
My bad, man. You can't.
Why are you laughing? That's best. That's what kind of friend are you?
I love you, brother, man. I love you, brother, man. I'm sorry you're going through that, man. I'm sorry you're going through that.
My bad.
I know we got another guest coming on, so I guess my last question is, should she have held Biden accountable to what he said to our community? And would the black women and the black women and whether it's in your family, your friends, your neighborhoods, would they have?
Oh, I'm gonna call him back.
So I think I know where he was going with the question. Like he feels like she didn't stand up enough to Biden, and I don't know what conversations they were having on behind the scenes. You know, like I said, because Biden did do a lot more things that were more in the Kamala Harris way she was running in 2020 when she was running for president than was Biden's way, because Kamala was definitely to the left of Biden, and some of the stuff he did, especially for unions and labor, Biden did a lot of good things with that, and I don't know if that was some of her influence or if it was other people's influence, but for specifically black people, I thought he was getting
criticized how he handled the railroad situation.
That was a bad way. He did that wrong. That was terrible. But some of the other things he did was what labor was pretty good, especially like with workers wanting to organize a union and stuff like that. He did help with that. But yeah, anything like I say specifically, if he was saying like I'm doing this for black people, nah, it wasn't any of that. But again, they both on. I think Kamala Harris is on record as saying that she's not doing anything specifically for black people. And personally, I don't have a problem with that.
I don't think that. Two things. I don't think that it's constitutional to give something directly to a race, and it won't hold up in court. And secondly,
You're right.
Secondly, when they did give the stuff to the Japanese and also the Jews, they were considered immigrants. So I think this is like the student loan forgiveness. Hey, I'm going to forgive student loans. But this is something Congress is not going to even put on the table.
Oh, so you don't even think she can get this on the table?
No.
Now, so
that's not enough white Democrats that's guilty, quote unquote, that's going to put this on the table. I mean, if the student loan forgiveness wasn't going to be done, this is not going to be done. Now what she can do is say this is a reparation. This is a reparation.
No, you can't call it reparations.
That's what I've heard them calling on CNN. But that's what she can do. But you can't call it that because you basically telling the black people, the black men, you got to have a business. You got to be doing something with your life if you want this money. Or you got to want to do something with your life if you want this money. And
it's not the sweetest.
Yeah.
It's not the sweetest deal, LJ, because they putting this right back in debt. If you maximize that $1 million loan and you only get 20,000 written off, that reminds me of the student loans I told you. If it wasn't for Rex, you know what I mean? I would feel like I got played. I mean, I met a lot of great people at my college, so that's what makes the money I had to pay back worth it. But other than this, so that plan is not. It doesn't make me, excited.
No, it wasn't excellent at all.
You said it's excellent?
It wasn't.
You said it wasn't excellent at all.
It was not. Yeah. But I want to go back to a segue you said, LJ, so y'all can bring the next guest in. I'm going to use it as a segue. When you said you think, no, you're absolutely right. You can't base something off race that's unconstitutional. However, and here's the segue. This is what was so brilliant about the reparation activists out here in California. That's why they tied it to lineage-based. Brilliant. I mean, you guys brought one onto the show. These ladies are intelligent, and there's some brothers, backing them as well. But they understood by law, we can't do it off. So all of the foreign blacks, we don't have to do no ethnic name drops. If we're not trying to exclude you guys, we're just saying get in line. And we're going to start off with the lineage base. And LJ, your contribution is being embraced, because what I believe we're about to do now, once we take that tax, once we put the tax option, it's like, okay, now, because the most frequent disagreement from the people who don't want us to do it, and I just heard one as recent as yesterday where a guy say, I'm not paying. It was a white guy on a major news station, like, hey, I'm not paying for some stuff I didn't have nothing to do with. And we're saying, okay, what if we take the tax part out, not out of it, but make it an option? Are you, and we shouldn't even have to ask if you guys are against us setting up the Family History Agency. Well, come on, we're not owed anything.
Hey,
we're
Taj,
owed to find out who we are.
I got some GOP congressmen in the state of Oklahoma right now thinking about that, because I said make it an option. And they're like, well, you know what? That's not a bad idea. If the reparations was to ever come about in Oklahoma, which maybe because of Tulsa, they making an option is actually something on the table that can be on the table.
And credit to
in
and
this
that's
red
your
state.
ripple effect, LG.
Yeah,
That's all. I don't know who you got it from, but that's all. From as far as it go to me, that's all you, LJ. That's
I got
all
it.
your impact.
I got it from being in this knowing nonprofit and stuff how that works and this knowing that there's a lot of people in this country that actually wants to give to something like that and they wouldn't mind having that as an option on their taxes. So
so now what? So the question becomes now what's y'all reason?
But it needs to say reparations for slavery on the actual paycheck. When you get your pay stub, it needs to say reparations for slavery. No, it don't need to say FICA, Social Security. It don't need to be underneath something. It needs to be actually that.
So LJ, this is my last question. Y'all can let me go. And this is for you and Rich. What would be their excuse then? I can't even say reason. What would be all the non-believers and all the naysayers who no, I don't want my tax dollars going to the descendants of American slaves? What would be their excuse then?
They just won't choose the option.
Fair enough.
You still got you think about it, man. You all the people that gave money when the George Floyd thing happened for NFL, NBA, MLB, all those corporations, Discovery Channel, Apple, all that stuff. They'll be in line to do that. In my opinion.
That's a strong opinion, bro. You made a great contribution to the cause.
If they don't,
that's going down.
You talking about the social pressure on like the NFL, and you get Roger Goodell having to do a press conference because the NFL don't want to give to the reparations fund after they spend all those years putting it all in the end zone and on the helmets. So yeah.
Well, that's different though. So like, so say like the NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, like all these corporations. Yeah, corporations can sign up to give, but you're talking about like individual citizens and everybody. So Elon Musk is an individual citizen. So on Elon Musk's taxes, when he's writing like so Tesla and X could donate to reparations. Yeah. But Elon Musk himself on his tax form, you're saying he's going to have a box to check if he wants to contribute to reparations. Yeah. Just Elon Musk. Mm-hmm. And if he does, and if he doesn't check it, his tax dollars doesn't go to it.
Correct.
Yeah.
If he doesn't check it.
If he doesn't check it.
That's what I would do. I would put the stations.
That's what we're doing, LJ.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised, brother. You're gonna be in the history books. I believe that's what's going, because that's taking their look, man. Reparations has been on my radar for 20 plus years, and the most frequent excuse I have heard, mostly from people that's not descendants of American slaves, is that we don't. Well, I just said that we don't want our tax dollars going to that. So if you put it as an option, okay, your tax dollars, like the example Reg just gave, your tax dollars, now it doesn't have to go to it. You can check that box or you can leave it empty. But for those who understand, like, you know what, now that I have the option, I'm putting something to it. I don't care if it's $1,000. I'm going to check that box and donate $1,000 of my taxes to that. That's a brilliant idea, LJ, and thank you on the air, bro. And Reg too, both of y'all, man. We sharpened our thoughts on this. I appreciate the time, and we growing. Let's keep growing. That's it, fellas.
So follow up, LJ. So we pay with a certain amount in taxes. So that we look it up. Whatever percentage you pay, say you pay, 20% of your salary in taxes.
Yeah.
Do you allocate the percentage you already pay, or you pay an additional on top of what you already pay? So say if I pay 20% right now, that's what I owe to the government for my taxes. If I want to do reparations, are they going to do I say, and I want to add an additional this much?
Because you can take something in that 20% because that out of that 20% is going to different agencies, for different things.
Exactly.
So you can take out one of those things, those other agencies, like maybe not FICA, but I mean you can you don't have to pay more. You don't have to now. Will they do that? Probably.
Well, if you don't do that, your tax dollars are still going to reparations, whether you like it or not. because
No,
because-
no,
No, you
Reg.
don't. No.
no,
You-
well, no.
no,
What I'm
Reg.
saying is, so all three of us pay 20% in taxes. Well, so in total, that's 60% in taxes that the government is getting. Now, Michael says, I want to give some of my 20% to reparations. LJ says, I don't want to give some of my 20% in reparations. Ty says he wants to give his 20%, some of his 20%. Now we have less. At first we was getting a full 60%, LJ. Now you're not getting a full 60% going to stuff anymore. Now you're getting less of that because I've chosen to give part of mine to reparations. That's still less tax dollars.
I don't get what you're saying.
I'm lost too.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
got
if,
you.
if
Got
20,
you.
if they can, the IRS, the
Right.
government, the Treasury Department, they can figure out a way to say, okay, you want to give some of your 20% to this thing right here that you check the box on your 1099. Okay, so we're gonna make that happen, and I don't have to make. I didn't choose that, so I'm still paying the same 20%, but they not putting the reparations in that.
Right.
Right.
They
I've
can
seen those
figure
on
it
tax
out.
forms before. Yeah, what you mean? I've seen it on tax. You thought it out perfectly. It's going to be a box. You either check the box or you don't. If you don't check the box, you don't put a penny towards it. If you check it, you get to determine. You check the box and then you fill out what percentage you want of your 20%. Using your example, Reg. Okay, put 2% of my 20 towards reparations. The main point is what LJ did is he removed the excuses, and now what you're about to see is just pure hate. So be prepared. What you're about to see now is no, we just
Well,
don't
yeah,
want
it
the N-word
definitely,
getting nothing.
it's definitely going to uncover. Like, do you just hate? You just hate
That's
that.
what it's gonna reveal. Yeah,
So,
that's what it's just gonna reveal.
Yeah.
What Nas said, you could be poor, or rich. Don't nobody want a Negro having. You know the rest. Come on, man. So that's what it. And I'm excited about that part because we're going to get to see. You're gonna have to pull that mask off, and now you're just looking at pure hatred and evil. And no, we just don't want you Negroes having nothing. That's what you're going to end up witnessing. So be prepared. That's it.
I think you'll get the complete opposite. I think if that does happen, or if you guys start a big nonprofit like Goodwill or something, then you'll get a lot of funds in there. So,
And if I can fit this one more point, and I'm out you guys' way after this. Remember on our last show, I was talking about Kamala's silent consent or being complicit into what Galvin Newsom did. Now, we know from State Senator Bradford out here in California that the pivot began during the DNC weekend. Last night, and not just last night with the interview with Charlamagne and other interviews, she's saying the same thing Galvin is saying about, no, we need to study. And all the activists out here, all the reparation activists out here, like, no, we done with the study. We gave y'all 1,100 pages of study.
yeah.
Nationwide, we're done with the study.
Yeah, when I
So
every time
you know she's complicit.
when I heard her to say that, I was like, why don't somebody just ask her, was we in slavery 200 years, 400 years ago? Was Jim Crow happening? And then she says yes to that. Okay, we don't need to study it. Then we know
We
know
don't
what
need no
happened.
study.
We don't need no quit
Right, we
talking
know
about
what
study.
happened.
Okay, either you're for it or you're not. Okay,
Yes. Come on.
and people are starting to
That's
catch
it,
on
brother.
now. So
Right.
that's why she came out with this plan.
Right. So I'm
gonna take my 20,000 and go buy a yacht. No,
Now with 20,000.
No.
Now with 20,000.
Go buy.
And that's it, fellas. So no, we got the brilliant blueprint, and you either for it or you against it, and there's no on my end, there's no love laws. You just showing me who you are, and that's cool, and that's what it's gonna boil down to. That's it. There's no more excuses. I'm telling you guys, that's the biggest excuse they've been using for forever. No, we don't want our tax dollars going to that. Okay, now your tax dollars don't. It's an option. It doesn't have to go to that. Now what's your excuse? Oh, but now my excuse is I just don't like you people. How about that?
Yeah, like I said, I don't want the pastor that at one mission. I don't want he's white dude at Mission OKC, a good man, takes care of those kids, do anything for those kids. I don't want him to have to. I don't want the government telling him he has to pay for slavery. I want him to give an option to pay. Now, if he might do it. He might put his nonprofit tax dollars going there. He might do it, but I don't want the government telling him that he has to pay for slavery. I mean, but I just don't want the government doing that. I don't think that's right.
Well said. All right, fellas, that's it, man. I can't wait to hear the next guest, and I'll be still listening and to see how everything. Yeah, man. This is just to prepare the audience, whether you're listening now or later, man. We have a white conservative Republican in Los Angeles, which is a Democratic political machine that's pro reparations, and he's trying to politically, civically overthrow the incumbent who physically blocked another Republican, and we got this on video proof, of trying to walk up on the Senate floor, the state Senate floor, to motion the bills SB 1403 and SB 1331. And this guy, when I saw that, and this is actually my representative, he's on my ballot. I'm not voting for him. Now, I'm not saying I'm voting for Keith, who's about to come up next, but we're going to see. Keith has to take, that would be, but Keith is pro reparations. He doesn't have nothing to prove. He has plenty of media statements of sure. So he's, in my opinion, he's already made the pledge that, hey, I'm pro reparations. Yeah, I'm a white guy, but so what? I think it's the right thing to do. That's it, fellas. Thanks for the time, and I'm about to tune in and hear the rest of the show.
Yes, sir. Thanks for coming on, Taj.
Thanks for coming on, brother. Next time.
All right, always.
Yeah. I just don't know who's telling her to do something. If you come out with it now, we know it's a scheme. It's just like the student loan forgiveness. They did that at the tail end, and we took the bait. Okay, even though only people that didn't is people that understand how politics work. Okay, like me, I know Congress has to prove that, and Nancy Pelosi already said that she's not even going to bring that up. So it's not gonna happen. So. That's not enough white liberal Democrats out there in Congress that's going to actually vote for this.
I think all the if Kamala Harris got this plan written up, I think all the Democrats will vote for it, except for whichever one of those holdouts they have, like Joe Manchin. He might not vote for it, but I don't think there's any Republicans that would, though. And that's the problem.
Another problem it's what I always say, right? Coming from a Brexit point of view, the cultural problem with our community, how we're at the bottom. Okay, do we have the same amount of black men as white men, as Mexican men, as Asian men that wants to start a business, that has the desire to start a business, that will be successful in a business? Because if you do this, then it said others. So that means the Hispanics, the Asians, they're going to be up there too getting the money. If you got more over here on this side that's getting than the black man, that's going to be another. I can see that being another thing. Well, why is all these white men? I thought this was a black man thing, and it is, but we just don't have enough. We don't have as much. So because of the culture problem.
I don't think there's a culture problem if people don't want to be business owners. Again, that's one of my problems with the country. Like, why everything has to be for small businesses? I want to go back to the days where you didn't have to want to be a businessman. You could be whatever you want. Whatever you want to be.
I want to push I want to push people to have the ability to make their own schedule, do their own thing.
Yeah, everybody don't want that.
More peaceful that way.
Some people don't mind getting up and going and work a job. They just want to be compensated fairly for what they do. That's I think it's a mistake to make everything business focused.
But studies show that majority of Americans would, if they could, they would start a business. They would want to have their own business, do it, and be their own boss. It's wanting to do it, and then when the numbers go to people actually starting it, it's like a big gap.
Yeah.
So,
which is why her plan to help people start businesses is not a bad plan. Don't say it's for black people, and definitely don't call it reparations. My problem with reparations and y'all plan for reparations, man, is I don't care what people think about how their tax dollars are being spent. There are many things going on right now with my tax dollars that I don't like. Right now, Israel is dropping bombs in Lebanon on Christians. They bombed the Christian community. We complicit in that. I don't want my tax dollars going to that. I don't have a say. America is guilty for slavery. America owes reparations for slavery. America should pay it, and as an American, your tax dollars will go to that. Even in y'all plan, America's tax dollars are still going to that. It's just y'all just doing semantics where how it's going, and to me those semantics are only going to serve to help it to where it's not funded properly, and they're going to slap us in the face with some disrespectful number for reparations, which is why I say forget the reparations, lift everybody up, which is going to lift us up. And on an even playing field, I'm taking my chances against anybody.
Well, another problem is who's getting it, right? That's another problem.
This is Keith.
That's another problem. Hey, Keith, how you doing, brother?
Very well, thank you. It's morning here in California.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know you're having a good time in sunny California. We was just having a conversation about reparations.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard any of that, Keith. So I didn't know you were on it. Did you happen to hear that conversation we were having?
I didn't get to hear the conversation. I was actually dialed into a different show up until now.
Okay.
Got you. Well, just for our audience, would you introduce yourself for us real quick?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. My name is Keith Cascio, and I am a current ballot candidate for the California Assembly seat in the 55th District in Los Angeles. And I would think that it would be important to describe where that is. So the 55th is a very culturally rich district in the middle of the west side of LA. It includes communities like Culver City, Ladera Heights, Baldwin Hills, West Adams, View Park, Windsor Hills, Crenshaw, Leimert Park, Miracle Mile, Mid-City, Little Ethiopia, Pico Robertson, for any folks that either live in LA now or have lived in LA. And just to kind of give a overview picture of the district, it's the single most ethnically diverse district in California. It's a Black, Latino, Asian, Jewish district. And it's the most historic Black district in all of California out of 80 assembly districts. And therefore, an issue like reparations is extremely important here in the 55th.
And you, we watched the video where you were speaking and you described yourself as a pro-choice, pro-reparations Republican, and that's how does that happen? Like how did you find yourself on that path in the Republican Party?
That's an excellent question, and this happened step by step over the course of about 3 years. I got into politics about 6 years ago. I'm a software engineer by profession. My background is artificial intelligence. And I've lived in this part of LA for 23 years. And I'm from Brooklyn, New York originally. So I'm used to living in a very diverse area. I enjoy living in that kind of an area. And of course, in 23 years living in LA, I understood that I'm living in a very diverse area. But it was only after I started methodically, applying myself to trying to figure out, how could a Republican candidate, a moderate Republican candidate, win a seat that there hasn't had a Republican representative in 67 years? How would that occur? And I started doing a lot of door-to-door work, and I started doing a lot of research, all of which, by the way, I have enjoyed so much. It's like there's nothing quite like if you love a city that you're living in, there's nothing quite like running for office and getting a chance to roll up your sleeves and really understand the history and understand all the different parts of the community, neighborhood by neighborhood. And then that's when I, discovered for myself, and by the way, a lot of my political colleagues didn't even really know this, that it was the most historic Black district. So then I started realizing, you can't do politics in the 55th District without going to, for example, First AME Church. That's the first Black church in all of LA, but it's in my district. You can't do politics here without going to West Angeles Church of God in Christ, which is a Pentecostal megachurch at the corner of Crenshaw and Exposition in my district. And I'm starting to, meet leadership there. And then that, of course, just opens doors to meeting leadership in many different organizations throughout the district. And, issues like reparations that I already had on my radar, because from 6 years ago, I already knew the terms FBA and ADOS. FBA being the term Foundational Black American, which was originated by Tariq Nasheed here in Los Angeles, and ADOS, meaning American Descendant of Slaves, which was originated by Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore, also here in LA. By the way, for everyone in the show here, notice the pattern of how much intellectual work is being done right here in Los Angeles. I was aware of those things, right? But once I started immersing myself into these organizations and meeting leadership, it brought a level of clarity for me that I didn't have before, that the absolute most efficient and the best, most honest, most productive way for this country to address the longstanding hundreds of years of history of racial exploitation is to do it quantitatively, because that's what reparations is. It's putting numbers to harms that have been done in the past, and to address that just head on directly and do that work. So, obviously at the time, the California Reparations Task Force had already been impaneled, and it was already working hard up there in Sacramento. And they delivered their first report in June 2023. So that's kind of the story of how I, as a candidate, step by step, arrived at this enthusiastically pro-reparations position.
Thank you for asking that. Are there any Republican colleagues that you have who that would sign on a bill with you if you were elected or help you push that reparations?
Well, I think we do know that in the California legislature, when the vote on the reparative justice bill, and the number of that bill, I believe it's SB 15 something, and I forget the last two digits of the number of that bill, that had to do with returning land that had been taken by eminent domain, that had been taken unfairly from Black Californians. I believe that bill received quite a few Republican votes. Okay, now, so that's a bill that's related to reparations, right? It's a reparative justice bill. However, I think, and I believe, it's kind of implicit in your question, that your knowledge of this is that you're not going to find too many Republicans right now that are enthusiastically in favor of full-on cash reparations. And let me try to give my explanation for that. Some of us have to be early to something. In my day job profession, I'm a software engineer. I've been my background is AI. I've been in that field for 25 years. That's a field where if you're early to something and you create a startup around that idea, obviously you oftentimes become a multimillionaire. That's the way everything is in life, right? It's like you are rewarded for seeing something clearly before almost everyone else does. Now, if any Republican in California is going to see this issue early, wouldn't it be the candidate that's trying to run for the most historic Black district? It would, right? I mean, because my own process of running for the seat requires me to learn about things that a colleague of mine that's running up in the Central Valley of California is simply, that's not going to be the middle of their radar. It's not going to be their top priority of something that they're learning about. So I think there's a lot of important components to my story of how I got clear on this, but that's one thing that nobody should ignore, is the fact of where I am operating here and where I've been for the past 23 years, in Los Angeles.
So, can you say that again about how the Republicans, if they got in front of it early, so you're saying if they got in front of it early, they would change their mind on where the funding would come from? So what would they exactly change their mind on specifically? Because I'm one of those Republicans I'm Black assertive, but I'm one of those Republicans that don't believe in. I do believe in reparations. Okay, I do believe that it is old, But I'm not going to ask my white friend to pay reparations for something that his ancestors or somebody that people think that his ancestors did.
Okay, very interesting. Let's talk about, all these kind of subtleties and details of it. Here's the term that I think you're kind of alluding to, that is a term that I've started to use, which I think helps to make people feel more fair about the whole thing. And it has to do with the source of the funding, right?
Yeah.
I think what the thing that people would feel is extremely unfair and people would not be in favor of is what you would call proximity reparations. And that's that if there are folks who are near a black community, that they would be paying, de facto at least, they would be paying more reparations than some folks that are living farther away from a black community. So basically, like, I don't think this will ever happen. I don't think this would be popular in any way, but a reparation system where the amount of the payout is directly proportional to how close you live to the major black communities in the United States. Nobody's going to be in favor of that. That's why I think that one of the clarities that needs to come into reparations research, and I will share with you, I have poured over the 1,080-page PDF report from the California Reparations Task Force, and I didn't see anything about this in it. And I have participated now since August 31st, since this sort of conflict that happened in the California legislature over the two main reparations bills, SB 1403 and SB 1331. I've attended 11 different meetings that were reparations related, and I still have not heard this talked about, this concept of proximity reparations. So I think that's something that's going to get a lot more people on board and is going to strengthen the argument for this, is to address this situation and make it clear that that the goal is a system where the entities in the United States that profited from racial exploitation are going to be the ones that are going to be most responsible for being the funding source.
Is that by lineage of the white Americans? You said the one that profited the most.
I do think that would be fair for it to be partly based on that lineage. So first of all, there are corporations and there are private citizens. I think I've seen some significant reparations research that shows that there is a certain list of corporations in the United States that there's very well documented history and evidence that links those corporations to being directly involved in chattel slavery and in various aspects of Jim Crow and various aspects of redlining and other so many just unbelievable history and list of different forms of racial bias and racial harm that occurred. And then there are families, and there's a famous example that was covered in a reparations related podcast that I listened to the other day. There is a young woman who is the inheritor of a very large quantity of wealth deriving down from her family, and she did her research on how the family made their fortune, and it was, as is so often the case, it was directly involved the exploitation of thousands of people, and she is a very active, reparations advocate herself, and in fact, I believe she has begun her own personal program from out of her own wealth. So my point being, by giving that example, that there are even some families that they know their own history and they realize the debt that they owe. I think that the clearest way to talk about this issue is in terms of debt.
Yeah. There's That's really what it is. I mean, when I hear reparations, it's a debt owed to the Black Americans that went through slavery. And but my thing is, yes, I believe in reparations, but I don't believe in the government, the federal government. Now, states can do whatever they want, but I don't believe in the federal government telling every person in the United States to pay for reparations. That was 400 years ago. We're way past that. But what I do believe is an option put on the taxes. So you can check that box on your taxes. Then the government, the IRS and the State Department of Treasury, they'll have to get together and figure this out. But they can make an option on your taxes. So you can actually say, hey, I want my money going to the reparations fund. And I think if they did that, they'll get a lot of people doing that.
Wow, that definitely. But then the way I'm analyzing that idea right now is, would that be satisfactory? And what I mean by that is that part of what awareness I've gained through my political work here in Los Angeles in the 55th district is that part of the fundamental issue here is that the intellectual core of the American Black community is looking for a particular type of acknowledgement, which I do not think has occurred in this country, which kind of is amazing, right? I'm a 45-year-old man. I'm from Brooklyn originally. I grew up in the 1980s and 1990s. There's been, quite a bit of discussion of the history of racial exploitation in the United States. We in the 60s and 70s, we had a civil rights movement. Something that has kind of surprised me is, I don't know how to put it. It's like how little progress has been made, or how a sort of an actual honest acknowledgement somehow has not occurred. And so if you create a system where, individuals by their own choice can check a box with the IRS, it may not provide that kind of overall acknowledgement that is especially important that's being sought here.
I think it will. I think if the government, because this has to be approved by Congress, but if the government actually said, all three legislations of government said, hey, we're going to put this in the tax bracket and everything. We're going to approve this because this is going to be actual repayment of some sort for what we've done to the African Americans in slavery. I mean, I think it'd be a pretty good announcement. It'd be a historic event. It'd be a lot of money in that fund, but I mean, I think it'd be a pretty big acknowledgement. So, and sir,
and
I'm not trying to be argumentative. I'm not trying to come across.
No. We need to have these kinds of conversations because, as everyone knows, currently the concept of reparations is not a popular concept in this country. It's not popular in the United States in general. It's not popular in California. It's not even popular in Los Angeles. This is a very new concept for folks. So thank you for bringing up these very legitimate concerns that is pretty much on the minds of the majority of people when they hear the term. I was just at a wedding the other evening, and I'm a candidate for office. Everybody knows it. I have political conversations like every waking hour of the day, basically. But I had a conversation about reparations with somebody at the table at the wedding. But can I assume, though, that in this system that you're referring to, that you're imagining, on the payment side, it is going to be lineage based?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the way you have to do it, right? Like, I don't necessarily know for sure that my family was slaves. I mean, I have to do one of those tests to see, but I never.
Let me talk about.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me talk about those tests. So the United States and our own system within our country has been administering lineage-based benefits to Native American tribes for well over 100 years.
Right.
And tribes have offices, they have genealogical offices that adjudicate benefits claims.
Oh yeah, we know we in Oklahoma. We got all 5 tribes here. They got their own governments and stuff.
Wow. Okay, so
Yeah.
my late uncle, he actually originally he's from Brooklyn, New York. He's from Italy originally. He's an immigrant to the United States, but he grew up in Brooklyn, but he eventually relocated to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and his girlfriend was working in one of those genealogical offices. So I actually have, from the horse's mouth, I have a lot of direct knowledge about how that kind of an office functions. So my point being that we do have a significant amount of experience in this country with administering benefits in that way. So I do think the lineage-based, reparations program, which is, just in case listeners don't know, that is the formal recommendation of the California Reparations Task Force.
Yeah,
is a lineage-based system. I do think it's practical. We have lots of experience. We know how to do it. And so I'm trying to see how I can share this. I think there are some peculiarities to the American history of racial exploitation that make it more susceptible to reparations than people are necessarily aware of right now. And let me go through a list, though, because the California Reparations Task Force in their report put a list together of historical examples of other reparatory efforts. Okay, and the international examples that they gave is Germany, Israel, and Chile, and South Africa, and Canada. And then domestic examples that they gave was the U.S. Indian Claims Commission, reparations after the Tuskegee study, Japanese American internment, Sandy Hook. There was a program to help people that had been hostages in Iran, and then there's a bunch of smaller efforts that were actually documented. Rosewood, Florida, sterilization things that happened in North Carolina and California, Virginia, and some other things. But I'm sure everyone who may be listening to this show has heard American chattel slavery referred to as the peculiar institution.
Yep.
Is that fair to say?
Yep.
Okay. And so let me bring up an aspect of it that might be a little bit counterintuitive. And again, my background is engineering, so I have a tendency to think of things in engineering terms. The people who perpetrated this crime, who perpetrated racial exploitation in the United States, they didn't intend this to happen at all. They weren't thinking about reparations when they were doing what they were doing. However, the sheer ruthlessness, the almost scientific ruthlessness of the way that they did it, in a strange sort of side effect, it makes it particularly susceptible to reparations. Because it is based on a heritable phenotypic trait. These are peculiarities of the American system. Like, for example, and there's a conservative commentator, Thomas Sowell. A lot of people have probably heard of him, and he's basically a well-known anti-reparations, voice. And he'll bring up evidence, for example, that there was different forms of slavery happening all over the earth. And according to his claim, there were more white people that were enslaved in North Africa than there ever were black people enslaved in the Americas or something. I'm not, I have to look at his references to figure out what he's basing that claim on. But one peculiarity of the ruthlessness of the American system was that the moment that an infant was born, that infant was already a slave. Apparently in other, kind of parts of the earth where slavery was a thing, it wasn't exactly like that. So by my analysis, one way you could kind of put it is that it's been the norm in human history for groups of people to do dirty to each other. That's just been all of human history, is groups of people exploiting each other and so forth. However, maybe let's say 5 generations later, it's hard to tell who exploited who in some of those other situations. Whereas in this peculiar situation in the United States, you go many generations later and you are still observing the reverberations through the generations of the initial violence that occurred. And I think as we focus our eyes, and I don't see any more powerful way of focusing one's eyes than politics, doing politics in a place like the 55th district in Los Angeles. As we focus our eyes, we actually see that very clearly. And so I think part of the reason why I do actually believe that lineage-based slavery reparations is going to happen in the United States is because of the fundamental ruthlessness of the original system and the kind of the way that sets things up going into the future for having the clarity where it's clear that there's something that isn't going to resolve itself on its own that needs to be addressed directly.
No, for sure, and I think everyone is real clear on how awful and barbaric the American slave trade was, and so like my co-host, he agrees that reparations is owed and that it should be paid. His question was more of he just don't feel white Americans specifically should have to pay for it out of their tax dollars because they're not responsible. And my counter argument to that is no, they're Americans and America is responsible. So that's why it should come from our tax dollars. Because in that sense, even black people are going to be paying for reparations because they're not going to. We're going to still be getting taxed, and so and we ever going to get a reparation, we would still be getting taxed. So we would even be paying into it because we're Americans. But that's not a problem because it's owed. And when he was saying lineage based, he was saying like, nah, we would need to go and look at the lineage of white people to make sure that they actually had something to do with slavery before we forced them to pay out of their tax dollars.
Absolutely. And I kind of gave an example earlier. If I could look up the name of the people that the names of the people that are involved, but I would probably make some clicking sounds on my keyboard if I did that. But let me, this is such an interesting conversation. I haven't had a chance to have exactly this kind of balanced conversation
Nice.
in some time, and I appreciate it very much. I'd like to speak to, wealth in the United States and the distribution of wealth. One word that's very key when you're talking about reparations is equity. And equity is a concept that comes out of statistics. And my background actually is statistical background. And so the interesting thing about the concept of equity is that what you do is you sample over a population and you observe whether there's any correlation between race and, let's say, assets in the bank or something. And of course, as everyone who's listening to this show knows, there's a very great correlation between those things. And then you say, okay, we're not going to jump down the rabbit hole of trying to even really understand why. We're not going to get into that because in American history, when you start trying to get into that debate about why, that's when the whole thing breaks down and everybody's disagreeing with each other. Okay? We're not even going to try to talk about why. We're just going to say, hey, something must be wrong. If you can predict how much assets Americans have in the bank by their race, then something went wrong somewhere along the line. We're not sure why, and it's something that should be addressed. That is equity. That is the essence of the argument of equity, and it's a very strong argument, very powerful argument. And if I were to add something that I think, if I don't add this, someone else is going to add it. It's coming. We are on a train here that is going down the track, and there's certain things that are coming down the line that we're going to be seeing. And one of them is going to be that if one element of life is equitably or uniformly distributed over the American population, we would have to expect that other elements of life also would be equitably distributed. And here we're going to get into some I guess a little bit of economic theory or theory of wealth or how human society functions. But let's say that we were to talk about the surplus wealth in the United States. Let's say there is surplus wealth. There has to be. If you are contemplating a system of paying reparations, there has to be some kind of funding source for that, which means there has to be surplus wealth somewhere. And then ask the question, where did that surplus wealth come from in the United States? It came from American capitalism. And most commentators, and by the way, I'm a proud and staunch Republican capitalist. I do believe in capitalism. And if anything I've learned in my 25-year career in the tech industry is that socialism is an illusion. It's not even just that socialism doesn't work. It's that when you think you're doing socialism, it's an illusion. And actually you're being manipulated, Yeah. But where did American excess surplus wealth come from? It came from the aggressive practice of American capitalism, and American capitalism has had an exploitive quality from day one. Day one, it was chattel slavery, but there's been many other forms of exploitation that have occurred in the course of American capitalism. And so if I was going to use a pretty strong and dramatized term for it right now, but just in order to kind of catch the attention of the audience and to try to make a point, you could say that the surplus wealth in the United States is blood money. I know that's a strong term.
I don't even think that's that strong of a term, sir. Like,
okay,
that's not that strong of a term, sir. Yes, you're right, 100%. It is.
Okay, so if you look at it from that perspective, then the demand for reparations is actually demanding a cut of the blood money. You're saying we're in this, what appears to be wealthy country, but if you look under the surface of where that wealth came from, you find out originated, and we're saying, there's this blood money here, and we want a cut of this. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but what also comes as a side effect of that is that if assets are going to be equitably distributed, then whatever were the qualities that resulted in that wealth, scientifically speaking, would also need to be equitably distributed. And so, again, I'm going to use probably too strong of a term here, but if, my background is Christian and I'm a baptized Catholic, and, different people have very different interpretations when they read the Bible, but I guess I'm a little old fashioned, but what the part of the Bible I remember is when an important person said, a rich man will enter heaven as easily as a camel will pass through the eye of a needle. If we kind of reasonably assume that the origin of some of that surplus wealth was what you might call aggression or exploitation, or maybe go so far as to call it evil, then that also is going to need to be equitably distributed. So to just try to make a sort of a philosophical point, if we reach the point of equitably distributed assets in this country, we would have to also assume that we've reached the point of equitably distributed evil. And that black households that now have the same level of assets as white households, they also have the same level of evil. I know the way I'm talking about it is pretty philosophical there.
Yeah, you lost me on that one. You lost me on that one. To try to, like, I follow you what you talk about when Jesus said, "Hey, it's easier for a rich person to go the strain, through the camel to get through the eye of a needle than a rich person is to get to heaven." But Jesus also mentioned in when it wasn't a parable, when he was talking about the widow who gave all she had, and he's sitting there watching. He said the rich people gave out of their wealth, but she gave all she had to live on because she was poor. And I don't think Jesus has a problem with rich people. I think it's a problem with the evil. And on this show we've talked about how Leviticus 6 proves that restitution is biblical. And so restitution is old, and to deny that restitution, I'm always cautious on calling people evil, because when you start getting evil in religion, people are killed over that. People willing to die over that. And so I don't want to call a person evil, but we can definitely call American slavery evil, and we can say America not wanting to pay restitution for that, like as a whole, like it's definitely wrong. You may not want to call it evil, but it's definitely wrong. And I like what you're talking about with equity, and making it equitable. So yeah, I just got lost where it got to the households and the evil.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm still, I got to tell you, this is the first show that I've ever articulated those ideas on. So this is kind of new to me to share this thought process. And I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to talk with you like this. Okay. The point is, I guess, that the practices, the cultural practices, the economic practices that result in some families having millions of dollars in the bank, generally speaking, is not something that people are incredibly proud of. Now, we tell when we youth in middle school and in high school, we tell them that we live in a meritocracy, and you're going to be rewarded for having good ideas and for being the servant of your fellow man. You're going to be, and I got to share with you, gentlemen, 25 years in the software industry, 14 years working for Google. That is a way overly idealistic idea of the way American capitalism works. I'm sorry. It just, I don't think it works that way. The way, there's an element of hustle to it. Maybe that's a word that it's a little bit of a softer word. There's an element of being in a meeting with other people, and some kind of more nerdier guy, articulates a brilliant idea, but he doesn't understand the value of his own idea, and you go right ahead and take it, and you capitalize on it, and you make millions of dollars off, and you leave him in the dust. That's a little bit of a more accurate description of the truth of real capitalism, right? It's extremely opportunistic. It's extremely, hustle oriented, and it's a cultural thing. I don't know if you gentlemen remember an infographic, an infamous infographic that came down in 2020 from the Smithsonian, and it was about whiteness. It was literally an infographic that was meant to describe whiteness. You remember that from 2020?
Yeah, I laughed at it.
Okay,
I didn't see it. What did it say?
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
I'm going to list off the attributes from it. Okay, I happen to have it on hand right now because I was talking to somebody about it just yesterday. I'm going to list off the attributes, but first, before we list it off, okay, everybody knows these are attributes that could be demonstrated by any race of person. Anybody can apply themselves or act this way, and they will get certain outcomes in life from acting this way. But this famous Smithsonian infographic said that whiteness is related to rugged individualism, scientific method, Protestant work ethic, planning for the future, delayed gratification, following of rigid time schedules, otherwise known as punctuality, very, very strict adherence to property law, adherence to what they call the law of intent, mens rea, an emphasis on being number one, winner take all, action-oriented, aggressiveness and extroversion, advanced English communication skills, and politeness. Okay, now the reason that this infographic became so controversial is because everybody said, wait a second, you can't assign those attributes to white people. You know, everybody's capable of, you know, those behavior patterns. But you know, that kind of, if you were to look just one psychological step behind those qualities, and you were to imagine what is the state of mind that results in those qualities, right? It's kind of like you show up in life and you basically show up on the scene and you feel like you are very deserving. You know, I am going to be the winner here. You know, I am born to win, and you know, if somebody else is in the room with me and they're kind of like a step behind, or they're not as ready to sort of seize the day as I am,
kind of like an athlete.
It's like it's an athletic mindset. It's a competitive mindset. It's like, then they were never meant to be the winner. So if I happen to steal their idea, or I happen to capitalize off of their work, then that's as the system was meant to be. I'm meant to do that, you know? And, you know, so you could call that a little bit of hustle. You know, you could call it a lot of hustle. You could call it aggressive, exploitive capitalism. You know, in my day job industry, I'm going to have to share with you, and by the way, you know, we barely have met each other, so I don't know what your professional background is, whether you have some experience in the tech industry. But one group of people that is made very good use of is people that are on the spectrum with regard to autism. Okay, you got a lot of individuals in the industry that have a little bit of Asperger's, and they're very logical people, and they're very good at solving problems, extremely good at solving very complex technical problems because their focus is amazing, you know. And a lot of this industry is based off of putting together teams of folks like that, and then having somebody who's profiting off of their labor much more so than they will. That is just, I'm just telling you an example from my own personal experience. And so, yeah, I agree with you. We need to be super careful about using a word like evil or something like that. But so let's say we instead use the word hustle. Okay?
Right, or even not hustle. Like I've said before, like a soulless corporation, because a corporation doesn't have a soul. So it's in the bottom line for a corporation is to make profits. That's the bottom line. So unless you have a moral person at the head of that corporation, it's easy for that corporation to do the things that you just said that they're doing. And because a righteous corporation or a moral corporation would still put those teams of people together, but they would give them credit and compensate them properly for their ideas. But our corporations, you have CEOs making millions and millions of dollars, and those workers, they're getting the scraps. And so that's wrong, and that affects people who wouldn't see a dime of reparations money. Which is why I'm pro reparations. I'm for it. I think America should pay it out of the tax dollars we already pay. I wouldn't raise the taxes one bit. I would just reallocate funds out of the budget we already have because it's owed and it's due, and I would pay it. But I don't fight for that because, like you said, it's not popular. You one of the first you one of the first people on the block for it as a Republican. But what I would fight for, what everybody could get behind, is making corporations and capitalism fair capitalism, and which is more in line with what you just was describing.
You know, and the subtlety. I really appreciate the subtlety of the point you're making about fairness. You know, because that's the main thing that everybody has an allergic reaction to, is when something just sounds completely unfair. But another engineering principle that I would like to bring into this is that, you know, basically, if something has been tried enough that you feel that you can legitimately declare that policy or that approach to be a failure, then you as an engineer, you know, you have to look for other approaches. Something that has astonished me in my political work in this urban part of Los Angeles, is that it feels like the 1980s to me. I mean, I'm a child of the 1980s. I was born in 1979. You know, I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, but I remember all doing. What were these things addressed? Did people apply themselves? It seems like it's been treading water for a long time. In the urban area, but then that didn't cause me to lurch into a frame of mind of imagining that somehow I knew the solution, but then I just started, it redoubled my curiosity to be just listening. My style of politics, and you gentlemen have given me a huge amount of opportunity to just speak on this show, but out there in the field though, 90% listening, 10% speaking. That's, again, is part of what has brought me to the point of thinking that it's a very healthy idea to do quantitative reparations research, to look at the history of things more scientifically. And during our conversation today, I don't think that we've had any disagreement on that's a good idea.
No, we have not at all. And Keith, we appreciate we appreciate your time. We actually want to have you on more I want to talk about AI with you. I want to have you back to talk about AI and things like that. And I also want to give you a chance to talk about, because like you said, reparations aren't popular, but you're running and you're brave enough to stand in front of that. But what are some of what other issues that maybe a voter who's not really as concerned about reparations, but what's another policy, another thing that you have that you could maybe speak to them on, your other favorite policies?
I appreciate that question so much, and you'll see here that I'm not a one-trick pony with reparations, okay? Very much believe in representative democracy, something that we were all taught in civics class years ago. I don't know what happened to that in this country. Everybody seems to have drifted away from that. And specifically, it seems like the way political campaigns are run, it's like as if the personal beliefs of the candidate are somehow more important. That's not what's supposed to be important. You're running to be a public servant. You're supposed to be going to the Capitol, in my case, Sacramento, and representing the people in your district. So I have done extensive door-to-door work in my district, and I mentioned some of these neighborhoods earlier, like Culver City. By the way, my district has the two neighborhoods of Los Angeles that have the sort of the nickname of being the Black Beverly Hills, which is View Park, Windsor Hills. There's a beautiful neighborhood in LA called View Park, Windsor Hills. And there's also a neighborhood called Ladera Heights, and they're called the Black Beverly Hills. But I've gone door to door in all these areas, in Black areas, Latino areas, Jewish areas. There's a neighborhood called Pico Robertson, and in Asian areas in the district. And I ask folks, what are you concerned about? And they almost always say the exact same things: homelessness and public safety. And I've done extensive research, including, not just sitting at my computer reading papers, but also going to meetings here in Los Angeles. And that the homelessness services success story of the entire United States is Houston, Texas. Have you guys heard that before?
No.
I only heard it from you. Yeah, I watched one of your interviews from a couple of years ago when you were running. But yeah, if you could explain that to the audience.
Let me make a suggestion to the audience or to anyone. If you just do a quick web search for Dallas, Houston homelessness, just those three words, you will find the most fascinating information that will enlighten you. The best academic papers, and these papers are coming out of Harvard, Stanford, Princeton, Yale, but the best papers compare Dallas and Houston over the same 8-year period. And during that same time frame, Dallas's homelessness rate doubled. So it got much worse. It was a disaster. And Houston's was cut into 1/3 of what it had been, a 66% reduction. And folks listening to the show may be aware that the way homelessness is measured is what's called a point-in-time count. And so that's, not a perfect science experiment, but it's pretty close. It's two big cities in Texas, exactly the same time frame, completely different results. And we know what Houston did 13 years ago. They centralized services. And that is something that requires exceptional leadership to accomplish. And let me explain why. So LA County, which, just for everyone listening, LA County is not even really a county. It's a large state. Okay. There's only 12 states in the United States that have more people in them than the county of Los Angeles. LA County has the same number of people as the state of North Carolina. And LA County is the homelessness capital of the entire United States. We have many government agencies and nonprofits that are attempting to help that crisis here. The status quo in most urban counties in the United States is there being about 17 different government agencies and nonprofits competing with each other for dollars and turf. Folks who have worked in this field, as soon as I say that to them, they're immediately nodding their head. They know exactly what I'm talking about. Here in LA County, we have more than that. I have a spreadsheet of all these organizations. Depending on how you count things, we have as many as 40. Okay, but for all my LA people that are listening here, we have LAHSA, the Los Angeles Homelessness Services Authority. We have HOCLA, which is the city organization. We have CSH, St. Joseph Center, Venice Family Clinic, Downtown Women's Center, Chrysalis, Weingart, Union Rescue Mission, LA Mission, Midnight Mission, and we could go on and on. And these organizations are fiercely independent from each other. Any attempt to centralize them, they will fight that kicking and screaming. Okay, and I'm not even trying to say that as criticism. I'm not offering that observation out of spite or anything like that. I'm just trying to describe the reality on the ground. And 13 years ago, Houston had remarkable leadership, and they were able to take that situation that you find in most urban counties in the United States, and they were able to centralize it. What does that mean? That means here in LA, we would go to those organizations that I just listed, and you say, in 6 months' time, you're all going to report up to the same coordinating bureaucracy. We're going to track everybody using the same metrics consistently. Everybody's going to have to use HMIS. Now, everybody in the homelessness services space knows what HMIS is. Okay, that's the Homeless Management Information System. It's a nationwide database that's been available. Now municipalities have to pay for it. Okay, they don't just get it for free. Okay, but it's worth every penny. And I was at LAHSA's budget meeting the other day, and I saw the tiny fraction of their $1 billion budget. Okay, the county agency that deals with homelessness in LA County, their budget is $1 billion.
Is that from now? I kind of heard something about this, but is that, or if you're homeless, you actually have to tell the state or the city that you're homeless so they can put it in some system?
Basically, one of the aspects of the way HMIS works is that every person who has experienced being unhoused has a unique identifier number.
Oh, okay. All right.
They have a unique identifier number. And I'm not telling any secrets that he doesn't want me to say, but my political colleague, Republican Baltazar Federico, who for the past 2 cycles, he has run for Congress in the 37th district, he has an HMIS number because in an earlier time in his life, he experienced homelessness and he was given his own unique number. Now he's running for Congress. But these, what you would call managerial techniques, and by the way, when I started my software engineering career 25 years ago, I didn't love management any more than anyone else does, right? I don't think anybody just starts off life like loving management. But when you're dealing with problems at scale, high quality management is completely indispensable. It doesn't matter how much you kind of resist it or how much you want to romanticize the situation. Oh, if we just love people more, then things would get better. That's not the way things work at scale. You need world-class management to happen at that level. The results speak for themselves in Houston. Okay, this is documented in published peer-reviewed research. And by the way, those researchers covered. If anyone listening has thoughts in their mind like, oh, is it just that everybody from Houston moved to Dallas or something? Don't worry. That those possibilities have already been covered and ruled out in the literature. So the results speak for themselves in Houston. We know why this has not happened in LA is because it's incredibly difficult to achieve this. Let me describe to listeners how you would achieve this, right? It's something called servant leadership. I bet everybody's heard of it. There's great business books on this concept. What needs to happen is you need some folks to come into the situation. Let's say I get elected to California Assembly. Then I don't just jump up on a soapbox and say, hey, everybody, guess what? It's your new guy, Keith, here. And you guys who've been in this field for 20 or 30 years, you have no idea what you're doing. I know everything, so you're going to do it my way now. You know, that it should be blatantly obvious that would never work. You know, some people need to spend maybe as long as a year doing nothing but listening. Going to these organizations. By the way, I've already started this process. I've already become friends with Dr. Valicia Adams Kellum, the CEO of LASA. You know, and I'm actively and I have a contact at HACLA as well, and I have contacts at many of those other organizations that I described. But so I'm already trying to do this. But basically, you spend a significant amount of time doing nothing but listening and allowing those folks who have been in the trenches, saving lives. They've been saving lives. Some of these folks have been saving lives for 30 years. You know, you allow them to know that you genuinely value and appreciate the lessons that they've learned through that time, and you want to listen to them, share those lessons, and you want to give them credit for that. That if you learn something from them, if you ever repeat that knowledge to anyone else, it will come along with their name as being the person that originally discovered that thing, right? So you give people credit, and then you make friends and you establish that rapport with everyone. And then most important of all, you make them feel like if we all get together and we try something different and it works, then they are going to be on stage with the rest of us getting the awards when that happens. And I hope everyone listening can feel that that is the difference maker. If you want to come into a system that has drifted into a state of stagnation and petty politics, and you want to achieve a sort of a mini revolution, you need to make the hardworking people that have already been in that space for a long time know that they're going to be part of the solution, and that they're absolutely going to get the accolades when we solve this problem.
No, that sounds reasonable and like it will work. Keith, again, we thank you for the time. Before we jump, just one more time, if you could tell the people who you are, where you're running, can they help and support your campaign, and before the election, we'd like to have you back on again.
Thank you so much, and I'm excited about that. I can't wait to come back. My name is Keith Kasho. I am the Republican candidate, the pro-reparations Republican candidate for a California Assembly in the 55th District in the heart of the west side of Los Angeles. And if folks would check me out on my website, keithfor55.org, you would be able to find so much additional information about all the topics that we've discussed today.
There you have it, family. Keith, again, thank you for your time. Definitely look forward to talking to you again. And until next time, family, this has been the Conservative as Christ show with LJ and the Wretch. We're here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Until next time, keep them with you.
Get locked in and stay locked in. This is the Conservative as Christ show.